trafficking is a thing that when you hear it, you know what it is, but not how it affects you personally. Well, that was the same for me before I did research on this topic. Human trafficking is a serious and terrible criminal act that happens everywhere, not just in the United States. In this speech, I will talk to you about what human trafficking is and the two main types of it, which are labor and sex trafficking. The first thing I will talk about is what it is. Human trafficking is the selling of men, women, and children for labor, prostitution, and other purposes. And it is a serious crime that is a violation of human rights. Every year, the number of people that are being affected by this crime is growing. Karen Huntsman says, quote, the estimated amount of people that are being trafficked in the United States is around 17,500 people. And the human trafficking that happens in the U.S. is usually sex trafficking and labor trafficking, end quote. There are many laws that are trying to be passed to help stop human trafficking in the United States. Malta, Sweden states that, quote, around 116 countries around the world are trying to make laws against it, end quote. Even though they are trying to make laws against it, it won't end it completely. There are many different types of human trafficking. You may know the two main types. Ron Smith writes in the journal Seven Lives, the Unified Solution to Human Trafficking, that these are some of the different types of it. One of them is forced marriages, which is kind of like arranged marriages, but in this, the women are being sold to other men for money. Other types is when people are being sold just so they can take their internal organs. The last type of human trafficking is children soldiers. In this, children are being forced to join armies, and most of the children they recruit are around the ages of 15 and 18, but in recent observations, they've seen children as young as 8 and 9 being recruited. These are the main types of human trafficking that Ron Smith focused on. The next thing I will talk about is one of the major types of human trafficking. According to Karen Huntsman, labor trafficking is the second most common type of human trafficking in the United States. Labor trafficking can happen to anyone from any age range. These people are forced to work for little or no wage, and the conditions that they work in are usually very dangerous. Karen also states that the human trafficking that affects citizens and non-citizens of the U.S. The reason for this is that the non-citizens that are trying to get into the U.S. are more willing to work in the awful conditions. The people that are being trafficked are often kept isolated from others so they can't get help. Ron Smith adds, quote, that they are also blackmailed by their traffickers into working for them. They are often abused and punished, end quote. There are many groups that are trying to get rid of human trafficking. Tanya Moen writes in Travel Industry Takes on Human Trafficking that one of the main organizations that is trying to help stop human trafficking is the Polaris Group. They estimate that 21 to 27 million people are being held captive as slaves. The Polaris Group trains its employees to help identify human trafficking and help stop it. They are trying to, stop it. The third thing I will talk about is sex trafficking. Sex trafficking is the number one type of human trafficking in the United States. Sex trafficking includes prostitution, pornography, of killing people against their will. According to Ron Smith, some sex trafficking is highly visible to people, like prostitution, but other victims are unseen. Adult women and girls are affected most by this. Some adult men and young boys are affected, but not as much. The main types of people it happens to are children. It happens to children a lot, so they gave it a name, which is domestic minor sex trafficking, or DMST. Karen Huntsman says that, quote, it usually involves a commercial sex act that is performed by a person who is under the age of 18. Human trafficking is a multi-million-dollar business that takes people against their will and forces them to do work or other things. The main two types of human trafficking that I talked about were labor and sex trafficking. So now that you know more about human trafficking and what it is and how it affects people, it might give you a new perspective of it. Thank you.